On a chilly Friday evening in downtown Chicago, the city lights flickered like stars against the glass towers. Crowds hurried along Michigan Avenue, bundled in coats, rushing home or heading out for the weekend. But inside a quiet, upscale cafe tucked on the corner, Daniel Mercer sat alone by the window, staring into his untouched latte. Daniel wasn't just any man. At 32, he was the heir to Mercer Holdings, a multi-billion-dollar real estate empire his father had built from scratch. People looked at him and saw wealth, privilege, power. But Daniel, he only saw loneliness. Because money could buy him almost anything except certainty, except trust, except knowing if someone loved him for who he was or for the zeros in his bank account. And that's why he was about to do something unthinkable. Welcome back, my beautiful family and friends. If you're hooked in and you're ready to enjoy this story, click subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're watching from, because tomorrow I will be giving you another story just as interesting as this one, and you don't want to miss it. Now let us begin. Daniel had met Sophia Carter 6 months earlier at an art gallery opening. She wasn't like the women he usually encountered, those who lingered too long on his last name, who Googled him under the table before dessert. Sophia had been different. She laughed easily, spoke passionately about her work as a teacher, and seemed genuinely uninterested in the glittering circles Daniel moved in, or so he thought. As their relationship blossomed, Daniel's friends teased him, saying he finally looked happy. His mother adored Sophia, calling her refreshing. Even his father, who trusted no one, admitted she seemed sincere. But for Daniel, doubt lingered like a shadow. Was Sophia really in love with him? Or with the Mercer fortune that cushioned every step of his life? One sleepless night, staring at the city skyline, Daniel made his decision. He would find out the truth by pretending to be poor. The plan was simple, or so he told himself. He wouldn't reveal his wealth to Sophia, at least not fully. He'd downplay his background, ditch the luxury cars, the designer suits, the private dinners. For the next few months, she would know him only as Daniel, a man working odd jobs, struggling to make ends meet. His best friend, Marcus, thought he was insane. "Dude, you can't just fake being broke. That's a rom-com setup gone wrong," Marcus warned, sipping his beer. "I have to know," Daniel replied, his jaw tight. "If she loves me poor, then I'll know it's real. If she doesn't, then I've saved myself a lifetime of lies." Marcus sighed. "Fine, but don't come crying to me when this blows up in your face." The first test came quickly. Instead of picking Sophia up in his sleek black Tesla, Daniel borrowed his cousin's beat-up Toyota Corolla. When Sophia slid into the passenger seat, her nose wrinkled slightly at the smell of old fries and gasoline. "Wow. This is different," she said, forcing a smile. Daniel chuckled awkwardly. "Yeah, sorry, my usual car's in the shop." She nodded, but her eyes flicked to the peeling dashboard. It was a small moment, but it made Daniel's chest tighten. Later that week, he suggested dinner at a cozy diner instead of the expensive Italian restaurant she loved. Sophia hesitated but agreed. She picked at her fries, her smile thinner than usual. "You know," she said lightly, "I kind of miss those fancy places you used to take me. I mean, this is fine, but—" Daniel's stomach churned. Was that disappointment, or just honesty? The weeks dragged on, and Daniel committed fully to the role. He wore plain clothes, told Sophia he was between jobs, and even picked up shifts at a local hardware store to make the story believable. Sophia's reactions were mixed. Sometimes she seemed supportive, telling him, "It's okay. I don't care if you're not rich. I just want us to be happy." But other times, little cracks showed, like when she complained about not being able to post glamorous date night photos, or when she sighed heavily at the thought of splitting bills. Daniel's heart wavered constantly. Some days he was convinced she loved him for him. Other days, he feared she was simply tolerating the charade until his luck changed. Then came the breaking point. One Saturday, Daniel surprised Sophia with a picnic in the park. He packed sandwiches, homemade lemonade, even borrowed his sister's guitar to play a few songs. He wanted to show her that love wasn't about money, it was about moments. For a while, it worked. Sophia laughed, rested her head on his shoulder, and whispered, "I love this. I love you." But when a group of her friends walked by dressed in designer clothes, heading to a rooftop brunch, Sophia stiffened. One of them waved, calling out, "Sophia, where have you been hiding? We're going to Loom. Come join us." Sophia's smile faltered. She looked at Daniel, then at her friends, torn. "Maybe we could go with them, just for a bit?" Daniel's chest ached. He forced a smile. "Go ahead. I'll pack up here." She hesitated only a moment before hurrying after them, leaving Daniel sitting alone on the picnic blanket, the lemonade growing warm in the sun. That night, Daniel stared at his reflection in the bathroom mirror. Was this what love looked like? Or had he made a terrible mistake? But then, just as doubt threatened to consume him, fate intervened. 2 weeks later, Daniel received shocking news. His father had fallen gravely ill, and the Mercer Empire suddenly demanded his attention. He could no longer hide behind the disguise of poverty. He had to return to the world he had built his life in, the world Sophia knew nothing about. And as he prepared to tell her the truth, fear gnawed at him. Would she feel betrayed? Would she walk away? Or would she reveal that all along she had only been in love with his fortune? That evening, Daniel invited Sophia over. She walked in, her smile bright, unaware of the storm about to break. "Daniel," he began, his voice heavy, "there's something I need to tell you. Something I should have told you from the start." Sophia's brow furrowed. "What is it?" He took a deep breath, his heart pounding. "I'm not who you think I am. I'm not struggling. I'm not broke. He hesitated, then whispered, "I'm Daniel Mercer, heir to Mercer Holdings." Her eyes widened, her lips parting in shock. She stared at him as if she were seeing him for the first time. "You lied to me," she whispered, her voice trembling. Daniel's chest tightened. "I had to know, Sophia. I had to know if you loved me for me, or for my money." Her expression hardened. And then, slowly, a tear slid down her cheek. But what she said next would change everything. Sophia's tear glistened in the soft lamplight, sliding down her cheek as she stared at Daniel. Her body went rigid, her hands trembling at her sides. "You lied to me," she whispered again, her voice breaking. Daniel's chest tightened. He wanted to reach for her, to explain, but he held back. "Sophia, please listen. I didn't do it to hurt you. I needed to know. I needed to see if your love for me was real." Her eyes flashed with pain. "So you tested me? You made me believe you were struggling, that you were barely getting by. Do you know how many nights I stayed awake worrying about our future, wondering if we'd make it?" Daniel lowered his gaze. "I know, and I hate that I caused you that pain, but I couldn't live with the doubt. My entire life, people have used me for money. I thought, maybe if you knew me without it, I'd finally know what was true." Sophia shook her head, stepping back as if the distance could shield her. "And what did you find, Daniel? Did you find what you were looking for?" He opened his mouth, but no words came. "Welcome back, my beautiful family and friends. If you're hooked in and you're ready to enjoy the story, click subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Now let us begin." For a long moment, the room was silent, except for the faint ticking of the grandfather clock in the hall. Daniel braced himself for Sophia to scream, to leave, to end everything right there. But instead, she did something he didn't expect. She laughed. Not a light laugh, not the joyful kind he loved, but a bitter, broken sound. "All this time, I thought you were different, that you were the one man who didn't play games with me. And yet, here you are, deceiving me in the cruelest way." Daniel's heart sank. "Sophia!" "No," she snapped, tears spilling freely now. "You don't get to say my name like that. You don't get to pretend this was noble. You lied, Daniel. You lied about who you were, about what you had, about everything." Her words sliced through him, each one a reminder of the line he had crossed. For the next few days, Sophia pulled away. She ignored his calls, his messages, even the bouquet of white lilies he sent to her apartment. Daniel couldn't blame her. He had shattered her trust, and trust wasn't easily rebuilt. But what haunted him most wasn't her anger. It was the look in her eyes before she walked out that night. Not just betrayal, not just hurt, but something deeper, something like fear. Fear that maybe she had loved him too much. Weeks passed. Daniel threw himself into work at Mercer Holdings, visiting his father in the hospital, juggling board meetings and investor calls. Outwardly, he looked composed, every inch the heir he was born to be. But inside, he was unraveling. Every time he saw a couple walking hand in hand, laughter in their eyes, he thought of Sophia. Every time he drove past the park where they'd had their picnic, he heard her voice whispering, "I love this. I love you." And then came the night he couldn't ignore anymore. Daniel was leaving a late meeting when he spotted Sophia across the street. She was standing outside a modest cafe, her arms crossed against the winter chill, waiting for someone. His heart leapt into his throat. He almost called out to her, but then a black Mercedes pulled up. A man stepped out, tall, well-dressed, with slicked-back hair. He smiled, kissed Sophia lightly on the cheek, and ushered her into the car. Daniel's world tilted. He followed them at a distance, his chest tightening with every turn the Mercedes took. Finally, the car stopped outside a lavish restaurant. Daniel watched through the frosted glass as Sophia and the stranger sat across from each other, leaning in close, laughing in a way she hadn't laughed with him in weeks. It felt like a knife twisting in his chest. The next morning, he confronted her. Sophia opened her apartment door, her face pale when she saw him standing there. "Daniel, what are you doing here?" "Who is he?" Daniel demanded, his voice raw. "The man from last night. Who is he?" Sophia's eyes widened, then narrowed. "You followed me?" "Yes, I followed you. Because I had to know. After everything, after all the lies and the tests, now you're the one hiding something." Her lips trembled, but she lifted her chin. "It's not what you think." "Then tell me," Daniel pressed, his voice breaking. "Please, Sophia, just tell me." She looked away, her silence heavy, and finally she whispered, "He's my ex-fiancé." Daniel staggered back as if she had struck him. "Ex-fiancé? And you're seeing him again?" Sophia's eyes filled with tears. "I wasn't seeing him. He came back into my life when everything with you fell apart. He wanted to talk, to explain, that's all." Daniel's throat tightened. "Explain what?" Her voice cracked. "That maybe I made a mistake leaving him." The words hung between them like shattered glass. Daniel's world collapsed in that moment. The woman he had tested to prove her love was now questioning if she should be with someone else. His chest burned. "So what was I to you, Sophia? Another mistake?" Tears streamed down her face. "No, Daniel. You were never a mistake. But you made me doubt everything. You made me question if what we had was ever real. And maybe, I can't forgive that." Daniel's heart ached with a pain he couldn't describe. He had thought the truth would set them free, that revealing who he truly was would bind them closer. But instead, it had torn them apart. And as Sophia closed the door gently between them, Daniel realized he had lost her. Or so he thought, because 2 weeks later, everything changed. Daniel received a call in the middle of the night. It was Marcus, his best friend, his voice urgent. "Daniel, you need to sit down." "What is it?" Daniel asked, dread coiling in his gut. "It's Sophia," Marcus said, his voice shaking. "She's in trouble. And it has something to do with that man, her ex-fiancé." Daniel's blood ran cold. "What do you mean, trouble?" But Marcus's answer only deepened the storm. "She's disappeared, Daniel. No one's seen her since last night." Daniel's phone slipped from his hand, clattering against the hardwood floor. "Sophia. Gone." Marcus's voice echoed through the line. "Daniel, did you hear me? She's missing. The police are involved, but they don't have much yet. I thought you should know." Daniel's pulse thundered in his ears. He barely remembered hanging up, barely felt his legs moving as he grabbed his coat and rushed into the night. His thoughts were a storm Sophia's tear-streaked face, her bitter laughter, the man with the slicked back hair, the ex-fiancé. He should have fought harder for her. He should have told her the truth sooner. And now, she was gone. Welcome back, my beautiful family and friends. If you're hooked in and you're ready to enjoy this story, click subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Now let us begin. Daniel drove through the city like a man possessed, retracing every place he thought she might be. The little bookstore she loved, the cafe with the red awning, the park bench where she once fell asleep on his shoulder. Nothing. Finally, he stopped outside the lavish restaurant where he had last seen her with the ex-fiancé. His gut screamed that this man was the key. The next morning, Daniel met Marcus at a downtown diner. Marcus slid a file across the table. I pulled some strings. The guy's name is Anthony Ward. Old money, East Coast family. They were engaged 2 years ago, but she broke it off. From what I've found, it wasn't amicable. Daniel scanned the documents. Anthony's smile in the photos was sharp, smug, almost predatory. His stomach twisted. Marcus leaned in. Daniel, this guy has a history. Debt, lawsuits, whispers of coercion. If Sophia's with him, it's not by choice. Daniel's hands curled into fists. Then I'll get her back, no matter what it takes. Hours later, Daniel stood outside Anthony's penthouse. The city lights glittered behind him, but inside, the air reeked of tension. He pounded on the door until it opened. Anthony smirked when he saw him. Ah, the wealthy Mercer heir, or should I say, the imposter who played poor. Daniel's jaw tightened. Where is she? Anthony chuckled, leaning casually against the doorframe. Sophia? She's resting. She's reconsidering her choices. Daniel's chest burned. You mean you're manipulating her? Anthony's smirk deepened. Careful, Mercer. Unlike you, I don't need to lie to keep a woman. She'll come back to me. She always does. Something in his tone, possessive, sinister, snapped Daniel's last thread of restraint. He shoved past Anthony, storming through the penthouse until he found her. Sophia sat curled on a velvet chair, her eyes swollen from crying. When she saw Daniel, her lips parted. Daniel? He dropped to his knees before her. Sophia, I'm here. I'll take you out of this. Anthony's voice thundered from behind them. She's not leaving with you. Sophia trembled, her voice breaking. Daniel, he said he'd ruin you. He said he'd expose your lies, your games, everything. Daniel took her hands, steadying her. Let him. None of it matters. Not the money, not the deception, not the world. All that matters is you, and I'm not leaving without you. Tears streamed down her face as her fingers clung to his. For the first time in weeks, she saw not the mask, not the heir or the imposter, but the man she had fallen in love with. Anthony lunged forward, grabbing Daniel by the collar. You think love is enough? She'll regret choosing you. She always will. Daniel shoved him off, his voice firm. No, Anthony. She left you because you never understood what love meant. You can't own someone's heart. You can't buy it or trap it, and you'll never have hers. Anthony's face twisted with rage. For a moment, it seemed he might strike, but Sophia rose, her voice steady though her body shook. Stop, Anthony. This ends now. I don't love you. I never did not the way you wanted. I love him. I always loved him. Her words cut through the room like lightning. Anthony froze, his bravado crumbling as reality set in. Finally, with a bitter curse, he turned and stormed out, slamming the door behind him. The silence that followed was deafening. Daniel turned to Sophia, his throat tight. Sophia, I'm so sorry. For lying. For testing you. For everything. She cupped his face in her trembling hands. Daniel, you broke my heart. But tonight, you also showed me the truth. Not about your money, not about your name, but about you. His breath caught. Does that mean... Her lips curved into the faintest smile. It means I want to try again. If you're willing to fight for us, then so am I. Relief, raw and overwhelming, surged through him. He pulled her into his arms, holding her as if he'd never let go again. In the weeks that followed, Daniel and Sophia began rebuilding what had been broken. It wasn't easy. Trust, once shattered, doesn't mend overnight. But step by step, moment by moment, they found their way back. Daniel no longer hid behind tests or disguises. He showed her his world, his family, his responsibilities, his vulnerabilities. And Sophia, in turn, showed him what it meant to be loved not for what he had, but for who he was. On a quiet spring morning, Daniel knelt once more before Sophia, not in disguise, not in pretense, but in truth. "Sophia," he whispered, his voice shaking, "I don't want to test you. I don't want to doubt. I just want to spend my life proving that I'll never make the same mistake again. Will you marry me?" Tears filled her eyes, but this time they were radiant, shimmering with hope. "Yes, Daniel. 1,000 times yes." And as he slid the ring onto her finger, Daniel finally understood the lesson he had nearly lost everything to learn. Love cannot be tested. It can only be trusted. Daniel's deception had nearly destroyed them, but in the end, it was love, not money, not power, not pride that carried them through. And for the first time in his life, Daniel knew he didn't need to test anything again. He had all he'd ever wanted. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. Click on the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell now to get notified each time we share our next video.